Welcome to Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
This is a story about greed, betrayal, deceit, crime, murder, treachery, and lust. This is the story of one of the worst cases of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. It's a cautionary tale. It's the tale of Gypsy Rose and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. This is one of the craziest stories I have ever heard in my life. There are so many plot twists, so feel free to debate your opinion in a classy way in the comment section below. Everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Gypsy Rose and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, moved to Greene County, Missouri from Chick Bay, Louisiana. Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy's medical records were lost in Hurricane Katrina, so doctors did not have a way to verify Dee Dee's claims about Gypsy Rose's medical diagnoses. Dee Dee also claimed that her family was abusive towards her and that she didn't have anyone. She also claimed that Gypsy's father was abusive, and this turned out to be another lie by Dee Dee Blanchard. In Greene County, Missouri, Dee Dee had friends in the form of neighbors and Facebook who helped her out with rides, money, donations for hospital bills, buying them things. And Dee Dee homeschooled Gypsy, which supposedly was necessary due to her medical issues. But this effectively isolated Gypsy Rose from potential friends, teachers, and all adults in the outside world. Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy was mentally slow due to brain damage from being premature and seizures, so she told everyone, including Gypsy's father, to speak to her like she was mentally slow. They went on finance trips to Disney World, they had a GoFundMe page, and they were even assisted by the Ronald McDonald House, along with getting a free house from Habitat for Humanity. People really connected with this mother-daughter pair. And because Gypsy Rose's medical records were supposedly lost, doctors simply accepted Dee Dee's word on Gypsy's diagnosis. After all, what kind of a mother would lie? Gypsy's father was young. He was only 17 years old when Gypsy was born, so Dee Dee was also able to manipulate him pretty easily. The pair seemed like an inspiration, and by pair I'm talking about Gypsy Rose and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. Everyone looked at these two and felt inspired because look at Dee Dee, she's such a selfless, good mother who sacrifices everything to care for her wonderful daughter, Gypsy Rose, who always has a beautiful smile on her face. They had survived Gypsy's medical emergencies. They had survived Hurricane Katrina. People really empathized with this mother and daughter. But appearances were deceiving. On June 14th in 2015, after reading troubling Facebook posts like this one, concerned neighbors and friends panicked and notified law enforcement, reporting that Dee Dee might have fallen victim to foul play and that Gypsy Rose, whose wheelchair and medication were still inside the house, might have been abducted. Everyone was panicking. They didn't know if the Facebook account had been hacked or if something nefarious had happened to Dee Dee and Gypsy. So sheriff deputies in Greene County went into the home, and there they found the body of Dee Dee Blanchard lying face down in her bed in her bedroom, and Dee Dee was lying on the bed in a pool of blood from stab wounds that were inflicted in a brutal manner. The wounds also appeared to have occurred several days early, so Dee Dee did not die in a peaceful way. Law enforcement immediately issued an endangered persons advisory for Gypsy Rose. They quickly took steps to track the Facebook post because everyone was so worried about Gypsy, who supposedly had medical issues, including seizures, leukemia, asthma, muscular dystrophy, and brain damage. So everyone was frantic, wondering how could this happen to such a sweet, lovely family who had already been through so much? And law enforcement, they were very proactive. They immediately traced the IP address of the Facebook post. The next day, police located Gypsy Rose in Wisconsin, where she had traveled with her boyfriend, Nick Godejohn, whom she had met on a Christian dating site online. Gypsy Rose did not have access to the internet when her mother was alive, so apparently she had managed to get hold of a laptop and snuck it into her room. And she and Nick had been talking online for quite some time. And Gypsy Rose hid this relationship from Dee Dee because Dee Dee was intent on isolating Gypsy Rose, and this probably made it easier for Dee Dee to control Gypsy Rose, in my opinion. Nick confessed to the police right away. Listen to this.
And then the truth is, okay, I'll admit it. I did actually stab him.
He said he entered the house of Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee Blanchard, and that he killed Dee Dee with a knife that Gypsy Rose had ready for him when he arrived. And he had taken a bus from Wisconsin to Missouri. So Gypsy Rose was also arrested, and it turns out she was not wheelchair bound. She could walk the whole time. To law enforcement, Gypsy stated that she was 19 years old, but this was not because she was lying. This is because that is the age that Dee Dee had told her she was. So law enforcement found out that Gypsy Rose was actually not 19 years old. She was 24 years old, and they found this out from the birth certificate that was provided on her behalf by her father. And it turns out that the father had been deceived by Dee Dee, and he was actually a really good man. He had been paying child support during Gypsy Rose's entire childhood. In fact, he continued to pay child support even after Gypsy Rose turned 18 because of her medical issues. Now she was 24, and he was still giving Dee Dee money. So let's talk about Gypsy Rose and Nick Godejohn. So investigators announced that she was actually an adult, and I think everyone, the neighbors and everyone on Facebook, were just shocked. And then they learned that she didn't have any physical or mental health issues at all. And her mother had repeatedly claimed this, and the public outrage over the possible abduction of a disabled little girl gave way to shock. And there was some anger toward Gypsy Rose initially, because I don't think people understood how manipulated and isolated Gypsy Rose was, or all of the awful medical procedures that her mother told her that she needed, and Gypsy Rose believed this. So further investigation found that some of the doctors who examined Gypsy Rose had found no evidence of all these claimed disorders. One physician suspected that Dee Dee had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which is a mental disorder that causes a parent or caretaker to exaggerate, fabricate, or induce illness in a person under their care in order to get sympathy or attention. In this case, Dee Dee got a lot of both. She got a lot of sympathy, she got a lot of attention, and it was also a grift because she was taking money on behalf of this poor, disabled little girl. So Dee Dee had changed her name after her family suspected she had poisoned her own stepmother. Her stepmother survived, but nonetheless, many people accepted Gypsy Rose's situation as the truth. And Dee Dee benefited massively from kind-hearted people, charities such as Children's Mercy Hospital, Habitat for Humanity, Ronald McDonald House, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Dee Dee had been making her daughter pass herself off as younger and pretend to be disabled and chronically ill, subjecting Gypsy Rose to unnecessary surgeries and medication, And then she controlled Gypsy Rose by isolating her from everyone else. So neighbors were initially super relieved to find out that Gypsy Rose was okay, but the Greene County Sheriff Jim Artnott warned that, quote, things are not always what they seem, end quote. And boy, was that the understatement of the year, because they were flabbergasted to find out that Gypsy Rose could walk, that she did not need the feeding tube that was put into her stomach. Yes, this poor girl had a feeding tube, and that's what makes this thing controversial. She had lost all of her teeth, probably due to the Dilantin she was on from her seizures. This video is getting long, so I'm going to leave it there. But on Monday, we're going to look at how Gypsy Rose manipulated Nick Godejohn into doing away with her mother, what they did with the knife, their getaway, and what ultimately happened to Gypsy Rose and Nick Godejohn. See you Monday. Subscribe.